The stranger by the creek. The sun was bleeding red over the Texas horizon, painting the prairie in molten gold. The dry wind carried the scent of dust, sweat, and sun-baked sage. It was the kind of evening when even the crickets held their breath, as if the earth itself was waiting for something to happen. Rancher Ethan Cole reined in his horse near the edge of the creek. He'd spent the whole day mending fences on the North Range, his shirt clinging to his back, his hands raw from rope burns. He was a quiet man, tall, weathered, and solitary. Folks around Dry Creek Town said Ethan talked more to his horses than to people, and they weren't wrong. Ever since his wife passed 2 winters ago, he had kept to himself, speaking only when he had to, working harder than any man should. As he dismounted to let his horse drink, he noticed something odd, a trail of footprints in the mud, small and uneven, leading toward the thicket near the water. He frowned. That wasn't the kind of trail left by a ranch hand or a drifter. It was too light and too desperate. "Hello," he called, his deep voice echoing through the quiet. No answer, only the rustle of leaves. Ethan followed the prints, hand resting on the worn handle of his revolver, not out of fear, but habit. As he pushed through the brush, he froze. There, by the water's edge, lay a young woman, her dress torn and her ankle twisted unnaturally. She was trying to crawl, breathing hard, her face pale beneath the grime. "Ma'am," he said, kneeling beside her. "You hurt." She flinched, eyes wide, and tried to back away. "Do not come closer," she gasped. "Please hurts." Ethan raised both hands slightly. "Easy now," he said softly. "Ain't here to hurt you. You're safe." Her chest rose and fell in uneven breaths. "My ankle," she whispered, tears filling her eyes. "I fell from my wagon. The horses bolted. I couldn't catch them." Ethan looked at the swelling around her ankle. It was already purple and swollen. "Looks like a bad sprain," he muttered. "You trying to walk on that will only make it worse." "I have to," she said through clenched teeth. "My brother's still out there, somewhere in the canyon." He shook his head. "You ain't walking anywhere till that ankle's wrapped. Let me help." She hesitated, but the pain won. "Easy, it hurts," she moaned as he carefully lifted her leg. Ethan froze mid-motion, his rough hands trembling just a little. His voice dropped to a whisper. "It'll be over soon," he said gently. "I promise." He tore a strip of cloth from his own shirt and wrapped her ankle with slow, steady hands. The way she winced with every touch made his jaw tighten. He wasn't used to this kind of closeness anymore. The sound of another person's pain, the trust in their eyes. When he finished, he met her gaze. Her name, she said, was Clara Monroe, a traveler headed west with her younger brother to find work at a ranch near Abilene. Their wagon had hit a rock crossing the ridge, and in the chaos, her brother had gone after the horses while she tried to stop the wagon from toppling. She hadn't seen him since. "Then we'll find him," Ethan said firmly, standing. "But first you need rest." "I can't stay here," she protested. "The coyotes." He gave a small, knowing smile. "Ain't no coyote gonna come near my campfire." Ethan lifted her gently into his arms. She gasped but didn't resist. He carried her to his horse, where the animal stood patiently, as if it understood. The sky had turned darker now, stars beginning to prick through the indigo. By the time they reached his small ranch house, Clara was half asleep, her head resting against his shoulder. Ethan laid her on the cot, near the fire, covering her with a blanket. "Rest," he said quietly. "Tomorrow we'll ride out and look for your brother." She opened her eyes just a little. "Why are you helping me?" she asked weakly. He looked into the flames for a long time before answering. "Because once," he said softly, "someone found me when I was lost too." That night, Ethan sat by the fire, hat tipped low, watching over her. Outside, the wind howled across the plains, whispering secrets only the lonely could hear. Clara stirred in her sleep, murmuring something about the wagon and her brother. Ethan rose, threw another log on the fire, and looked out through the window at the stars. He didn't know it yet, but this broken stranger would change everything he thought he'd buried. The guilt, the grief, and the long-forgotten warmth of having someone to care for. Tomorrow would bring questions and maybe danger. But tonight, it was just the sound of the wind and the quiet promise of something new beginning. The ride into the canyon. The first light of dawn spilled across the plains, painting the sky in pink and gold. Ethan stepped out onto the porch, stretching his aching shoulders. The chill of morning bit through his shirt, but it felt good, grounding. Behind him, inside the cabin, Clara was awake, trying to sit up. He turned to her with a soft smile. "Mornin'. How's the ankle?" She managed a weak grin. "Still hurts, but not as bad as yesterday. That's something, he said, setting a pot of coffee to boil on the stove. You'll be back on your feet soon enough. Clara's eyes roamed the small cabin, neat, quiet, and filled with a strange comfort. A pair of boots by the door. A framed photograph of a woman holding a child. The edges worn, the colors faded. Ethan noticed her looking. That was my wife, he said quietly. Passed on 2 winters ago. Fever took her and our boy. Clara lowered her eyes. I'm sorry. He nodded once, eyes distant. Ain't your fault, ma'am. But it's the kind of thing that don't leave you. Just settles in your bones. For a long moment, there was only the sound of the wind brushing through the grass outside. Then Ethan poured her a cup of coffee and said, We'll start looking for your brother soon as you can ride. You sure you're up for it? Clara straightened her back. I have to be. He's all I've got left. The search. By mid-morning, Ethan had hitched the wagon, packed supplies, and helped Clara climb in, careful not to jolt her injured ankle. His horse trotted beside them as they made their way through the open prairie. The world stretched endless and empty, just sky, dust, and silence. Every so often, Ethan scanned the ground for tracks. See them wagon marks? He said, pointing. They cut off toward the canyon. Reckon your brother followed the team that way. Clara nodded, clutching her shawl tighter as the wind picked up. He's brave but foolish sometimes. Always trying to fix things alone. Ethan gave a half-smile. Sounds familiar. What do you mean? He looked ahead, reins steady in his hands. A man who tries to carry all the hurt by himself. Never lets anyone in. I used to be that way. She studied him, her expression soft. And what changed? He glanced at her, just for a moment. Maybe it's changing now. By noon, they reached the mouth of Coyote Canyon. A long cut through red rock, silent but for the cry of distant hawks. Clara's heart pounded as she looked down the slope. He could be anywhere. Ethan dismounted, scanning the ground. Tracks here. Small boot prints. Could be him. They followed the trail deeper into the canyon until they came to a broken wagon wheel and scattered supplies. Clara gasped. That's ours. Ethan crouched beside a torn saddlebag. He was here, all right. Looks like he tried to fix the wheel, then went on foot. He pointed to more prints heading toward a narrow ravine. He's close. Suddenly, a sound echoed. A faint cry, carried by the wind. Did you hear that? Clara whispered. Ethan's head snapped up. Stay here, he said firmly, grabbing his rifle. I'll check it out. No, I'm coming too, Clara insisted, trying to step down from the wagon. Her foot hit the ground wrong, and she winced. Easy, she gasped. Ethan caught her arm just in time. Easy, he murmured again, steadying her. It hurts, I know, but it'll be over soon. She looked up at him, and for a heartbeat, their eyes met, something unspoken passing between them. Then Ethan turned and moved toward the ravine. The rescue. They found Tommy, Clara's younger brother, huddled beneath an overhang, his leg trapped under a fallen branch. The boy was no more than 15, pale but breathing. Hang on, kid, Ethan said, tossing his rifle aside. We'll get you out. He heaved against the branch, muscles straining. On 3, he grunted. 1. With a final push, the log rolled free. Tommy cried out, clutching his leg. Clara rushed to him, tears spilling down her cheeks. Tommy, you're safe. Ethan checked the boy's leg, bruised, but not broken. You'll live, kid. Just need the splint. He quickly tore a piece of wood and wrapped the leg tight. You're tougher than you look. Tommy managed a shaky grin. Who are you? Name's Ethan Cole, he said, helping him up. Your sister and I've been looking all morning. Tommy gave Clara a sheepish smile. Guess I made a mess of things. You sure did, she said, hugging him fiercely. Don't you ever scare me like that again. Ethan looked away, pretending to check the horizon. But truth be told, the sight of them together tugged something deep inside him. A memory of his own boys' laughter echoed in the back of his mind. The storm. Just as they started back toward the wagon, dark clouds rolled across the sky. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Ethan's face tightened. We need to move. Storm's coming fast. They pushed through the canyon. Rain started to fall in cold sheets. Lightning flashed against the red cliffs. Ethan lifted Clara onto the wagon, then helped Tommy climb beside her. He took the reins, shouting over the wind, Hang on. The storm hit hard, rain hammering down, turning the dirt path into a river of mud. The horses whinnied and stumbled, but Ethan held firm, steering through the chaos. Clara clung to the seat, eyes wide with fear. Ethan, she shouted. We're sliding. I got it, he yelled back, fighting to keep control. The wagon swerved dangerously close to the edge, wheels spinning in the mud. For a terrifying second, it felt like they'd go over, but Ethan slammed the brake and pulled the horses hard to the left. The wagon jolted to a stop. For a long moment, nobody moved. Only the sound of the rain filled the silence. Then Clara's hand found his arm. "You saved us." He looked at her, soaked, trembling, her hair plastered her face, and felt something stir in his chest. "Reckon we saved each other," he said softly. "The promise." They made it back to the cabin that night, exhausted but alive. Ethan built up the fire while Clara tended to her brother. When the flames finally glowed steady, the three of them sat together, strangers no longer. Tommy soon drifted to sleep, and the cabin grew quiet except for the crackle of the fire. Clara looked across at Ethan. "You could have left me that night by the creek," she said. "You didn't owe me anything." He shook his head. "Wasn't about owing. It was about doing what's right." She smiled faintly. "Still, thank you. For everything." He hesitated, then said, "You and your brother don't have anywhere to go, do you?" Clara lowered her gaze. "No, not anymore." Ethan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "This ranch has got more work than I can handle alone. Fences need mended in, livestock to feed. You could stay a while, till you figure things out." Her eyes widened slightly. "Are you sure?" He nodded. "Could use the company." For the first time since his wife's death, Ethan felt something break loose inside him. Not pain this time, but peace. Clara smiled, her eyes soft in the firelight. "Then I guess we're home," she whispered. Ethan looked into the flames and smiled quietly. "Yeah," he said, voice gentle as the wind outside. "It's over now.